Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to the Lost Voice radio program. This is Jacob Nelson, along with my illustrious and very tired co-host, Mr. Jonathan Studi. And together we will provide for you the dulcet sounds of our voices as we seek to recover the lost voice that once spoke to Socrates some time ago. Studi, how are we doing today? All right. So it's going to be just me today. So feel free to tune in or tune out. Yeah, no, we're on air. Go ahead and wake. Yep, we're on the air.
Oh, well, why didn't you wake me up? We're in the same office.
Lies.
Deceit and treachery, actually, is what I'm more specifically worried about here. I don't know, I'm tired, but I'm not as tired as I have been. What's weird about it is that for probably the last month or so, my kids haven't been sleeping all the way through the night, and I've been feeling pretty good, largely speaking.
Or really at all.
Or really at all, yeah, that's also been cool. But for whatever reason, since Saturday, the kids started sleeping through the night, and now I'm waking up just exhausted and feeling the same way all day. I don't get it. Maybe my body's not used to sleep and doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I've been there.
Which might actually be the case. I don't know if that's actually accurate to say or even possible. I really don't know.
Here's the thing, Studi, is that we are scientists, but we're scientists of nobler variety than simply empirical science. So,
true. Because rather than
because the science that we do is nobler and higher, does that mean we're actually qualified to say things of the nobler or the less noble sciences?
Yes, of course. but we prove the principles of the less noble sciences.
Such as?
The law of not the law of non-contradiction. Things like substances exist.
That's fair.
So that mobile being, or that is actually motion, those sorts of things, which I think is interesting. I like being better than all those silly and pure science.
Well,
but
I will probably interrupt the radio show a few times to cough and take care of a cold I've been battling for like 2 weeks because it's summertime and I get colds in the summer, not the winter apparently. So I do apologize in advance if I start coughing uncontrollably.
Oh, we forgive you, Jacob.
None of you will catch my cold, I can promise you that.
You sure? Because I'm kind of nervous. Oh, okay. Because I want to catch as much from you as I can, Jake. If I'm going to be honest here.
With the cold virus comes wisdom or something?
Yes. Well, the cold virus adapts itself to your I which means that in some way it likens itself to your DNA, and so then I don't know if this is true because I think cold viruses they only have RNA rather than DNA because they only have one spiral strand.
It might be best for us not to delve into this because we had an epic battle yesterday about the nature of the color of water and and the atmosphere and how that comes to be. We're in some fashion both correct. But we both died a little bit.
We did. Which was kind of funny because we were both wrong about the opposite thing and then we were right about the other thing.
I think we were talking past each other a little bit.
I do think we were too.
It started when you equivocated on a term to change the subject.
Well, that's because you were speaking about one thing, and then I made a comment on why the sky is blue. Then you said, no, it's because of this. And I'm like,
No, Studi. You did it again. We started with water, and I made a point about water, and then you jumped to the sky and made opposing point.
No, I said that the water, what was it? I said the water reflects the sky, which it does. Although it also absorbs other colors more readily. But then you said something about how it sounded like you said that the sky reflects the color of the water, which was really weird. I wasn't entirely sure if that was what you're looking back on it. And then that's not the case, because the water, or sorry, the ozone, which is O3, likewise absorbs colors other than water, or other than blue better, and so it comes through as a sky blue color. Which
what I was trying to say, though, is that the water is blue because it absorbs all of the light except the shortest wavelength light, which is blue.
Right, and that's what I was saying about the sky.
Right. So we were both right. But
I
think our wires got crossed somewhere and some odd things came out on accident.
I found this out the other day. The sun is not yellow. It's white.
Yeah.
Because of but we see it as yellow because of the same reasons that we just...
Well, light refracting through the atmosphere.
Refracking? So is that like how we get oil from shale?
No, that's just fracking. Refracking would be if we did it again and put the oil back.
Oh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. What was I going to say? Dude, okay, so did you hear about those boys in Thailand?
Yeah.
That was terrifying. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to go spelunking, but I'm also deathly afraid of drowning. And so this whole situation that they're in, where they're down deep in the cave, and what it looked like they were going to scrawl their names into this one spot as a rite of initiation that they've been doing for years, and then the cave flooded, obviously, and then come to find out that the only way that they can get out was through basically a 2 kilometer swim with the Thai Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
And there's one point, and this like freaks me out even just thinking about it, where they had to squeeze through 15 inches in pitch black.
Yeah.
All right. In water to get up to this one little point that they could pop out and then continue on with the rest of the journey. But still, 2 kilometers of that. I couldn't even imagine it. Man, 15 inches. Would we be able to get through? Are we too fat for that now, Jake? Should measure this.
I think we could probably get through that, but it would be. But then you have the scuba equipment on too.
Well, actually, they had to take it off.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, that's what's even worse about it. Because if you get stuck for some reason, you're dead.
Yeah.
And what was really cool, and I admired this about the boys, was that when the divers actually first made it through the cave system and got to where the team was kind of set up, the boys were in really good spirits. They were taking selfies and laughing and joking, which is either a good sign of their ability to find joy even in the most dire circumstances, or a sign of teenagers not being able to think through the treacherous situation they found themselves in. So I'm not sure which one it is, but I'll credit some virtue on this one, simply because I don't know. But still, I was looking at the map, and man, that is just freaky. So scary.
Well, credit to the Thai Navy SEALs. To be clear, these are not American Navy SEAls. They are from Thailand and the Thai Navy. But their willingness to risk their own lives to save, these children and this coach that none of them know. But this was a massive operation, and they're getting into monsoon season over there. So they were really under the gun with time and water, and to offer their own lives. And one of the SEALs did die. To offer their own lives to save these kids is a remarkable act of virtue.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he had died not in the rescue operation itself, but I think in the search operation.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So boy. He died like a week ago or something.
Got it. Oh, man, that's too bad. Wow, that was insane. But, no, I mean, that's what, it's kind of what you put your life out there for is a
Right.
military is recognizing that you're going to be giving yourself up to the greater good of the community, which he certainly did.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say about these guys? I don't know. It was just an amazing situation. I'm glad that they're all good. They're all doing very well. They are right now on medical grade food. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but obviously they have been stranded there for 9 days, and we're very hungry. But regardless, they're in great condition. The Thai government saved all of them, which is amazing.
Right.
So I'm very, very happy to see how that turned out. I'm very happy to see how things turned out last night. My son and I went on a little adventure. We were at dinner, and of course my kids are absolute kooks, and they were pretending to fall off their chairs, and I caught my daughter, and as soon as I caught my 4-year-old daughter, my son decided to do the same thing. But he's on the opposite side, and so I couldn't catch him, so he falls back and smacks his head on the ground. I mean, he didn't fall too far, but my wife urged me to bring him to the urgent care. What was really cool about it, I mean, he was fine, no issues there. What was really cool about it is this last weekend, I had him. He really wanted to go to Mass, but we couldn't go for some reason, for various reasons actually. And so what I decided to do is I just threw together this Mass kit for him, and he has been playing with it like non-stop since I did it.
Nice.
It's been really adorable because he has this. There was a toy garden hoe, and then I attached a cross to it, and he carries it around like a processional cross, singing, "Jesus the Lord takes away our sins," and just making up his own song, which is great. I mean, fantastic. But he and my daughters can just sit there and play Mass for like over an hour, and he even brought it to the doctor's office. It was something he specifically asked for, and the reason why I went along with it was because if you've ever been to the urgent care, it can be anywhere from a half an hour wait to like 3 hours. It's hard to get in right away. And so I brought some toys, I brought some homework, and did all that stuff. But one of my favorite things was that my son, while he was saying Mass at one point, he started singing a song for like the communion procession or whatever. And the song he started singing was "Splende, splende, stelula, quid which is "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" in Latin. Now, obviously, unless you're speaking of Jesus as a morning star and the twinkling or whatever, and Eucharist being little, you could make it, kind of a churchy song. But regardless, I'm very proud of my son because he recognized that Latin needs to be in the Mass.
Yes.
Even if it's just "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," it's appropriate. He gets it. He's a smart boy.
Yeah.
But today I talked to our director of catechesis of Good Shepherd at Nativity and about a Mass kit, because she's paint one of them. She's very crafty, and she'll find all sorts of ways to put things together and make something really cool out of just.
Well, there are Montessori Mass kits out there you can just purchase.
They are, but they're like $80, and so I just got.
Not cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap at all. But we got most of the Mass. We got most of all the liturgical vessels and items that we need for putting together a little Mass kit right now, and I got it for free in about 15 minutes.
Nice.
So I mean, I'm not gonna argue with that one. I mean, I'll have to paint it. Paint one of them, and then because he's got like a little sacristy box, sort of. And then I want to make a tabernacle for him that looks pretty cool, where you can put the stuff away. And I'm thinking about even making a little fake monstrance, and so that way he can I can teach him with the place of the Tantum Ergo and the Osalators, both which he actually knows and has known since he was like 2.5 years old.
Just as long as he understands the distinction in the monstrance. Otherwise, you're worshiping like Molech.
That's very specific.
Or Baal. I don't know.
That's fine. But yeah, no, I think he does. I think he does. He gets the idea that it's pretend. Although he wants a real tabernacle and he wants a real Jesus in it. And I'm thinking, it's probably not something we can do. With while remaining in the good graces of the church. That seems to be bad. But
it is not advisable to steal the Eucharist. It is
not.
The bad thing.
Yeah, and my wife even kind of weird about the kids playing Mass anyway, because it imitates something so sacred. But I think it's a great way to teach and instill in them the importance of the Mass, make it something enjoyable for them, and help them understand it.
There's a certain value in having young kids, especially boys, have a Mass kit and experience that side of the Mass, of learning it. In part because it prepares them to be really good altar servers. It prepares them, or at least gets them open to be priests themselves. So long as, it's not becoming a confusion of what the Mass actually is. So long as they know that they are pretending to say the Mass and they're not actually saying the Mass.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting for me because I watch him just do stuff, and he seems like he's more aware of what goes on the altar than I thought he was. Because whenever he approaches, because I had these little chests that I was using as a tabernacle. It's a little too small for the items that we have, and then especially the new items that we have. But regardless, when he would walk up to it, he would bow to the tabernacle, the little fake tabernacle, and he opened it up. When he would open it up, so I thought that was pretty cool of him. And what was interesting is that when we pray at dinner, when we pray at dinner. Or at bedtime, he doesn't often do the sign of the cross or get really engaged right away. But what I loved about this is that because we were playing, because it was something fun, something that was more engaged in his whole body, he was very good at doing the sign of the cross on himself, and he was even doing the sign of the cross over the little fake hosts, and which, by the way, were white poker chips with IHS written on them. I thought they're the best item in the house. Because you could use paper cutouts, obviously, but those are going to get bent up. But anyway, so that was the adventure my son and I went on last night, and it was just a blast because we went to the doctor's office, and I felt very encouraged by the fact that my son's evangelizing the whole office.
Right.
And he just about up. He put the little hosts in our fake little ciborium, and he nearly got up and ran over to the front desk and started giving hosts to all the people who were there in the urgent care.
Nice.
I was gonna let him do it, but then he got distracted by something else, and he wanted to play
something shiny. Yeah.
Well, yeah, something shiny. Yeah, he's still not even 3 yet, so can't expect his attention span to last too long.
Right.
Anyway, enough about my amazing son. Although, because he bonked his head, I told the doctor that's fine. I wanted to lose a few IQ points anyway. I haven't been on the air since. I'll tell my latest Michael story because I'm bragging on my son here. So at camp.
You gotta hurry this up. We're like almost 20 minutes in. We haven't even started talking about our subjects.
My son constructed a man-made reservoir of water. We'll talk about that later. I'll let you guys stew on what that means for a little while. Anyway. All right, what do you got that are to talk about? Speaking
of the joy of little ones, we have 2 major topics to talk about from a Catholic perspective. One is the immigration stuff going on in our country, and this idea that that Republicans are just separating families at the border, separating children from their parents. And then the other issue is in regards to the Supreme Court nominee with Brett Kavanaugh. And what that means for the Supreme Court, what that means for our country, what that means for things like religious liberty. So these are 2 really, really important topics that we absolutely do not have time for to talk about both of them with due justice, but I think it's important we at least touch on the both of them. So I don't know which one you want to start with.
Why don't we start with the immigration thing? It's a little older, and I think it's going to be sort of a perennial topic here moving here, especially now that the Supreme Court has upheld Trump's travel restriction. Certain Muslim-majority nations, and which their Islamism, or whatever you want to call it, isn't necessarily a factor in deciding whether or not these nations have special restrictions, but rather it's the question of how much terror has been associated with those countries in terms of their involvement, people who have come from there, or even things that are state-sponsored.
Right.
And I think this makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely, and we've seen proof of it time and time again that places like Iran is paying for terrorism against Israel in the West. Nation like Qatar doing the same thing. It's not unheard of that these legitimate nations are paying for rogue groups to terrorize the West. I think the other important thing to keep in mind is, this travel ban, people are saying, Trump is a racist, or Trump is racist in this way or that way. The issue of Islam and terrorism attacking the West, that is not a race, that is a religion. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because somebody who is Muslim may be Spanish, they may be Syrian, they may be an Iraqi, but being Muslim is not their race. That is their professed religion and their belief system. Just because I'm white does not mean I have a particular belief system. I have not chosen to be white, but I have chosen to be Catholic.
Sure.
And so there's a big difference between what somebody believes and their particular cultural or hereditary background. And so to say, even if it's a ban against a Muslim majority country, that is not a racist ban. That is saying we in the West have trouble with what is professed by this country who believes a certain ideal. And that ideal does not coalesce with what is professed in the West. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a really important distinction to make. Now we can argue that, is it okay to ban travelers based on religion? Well, that's a whole other issue, but I think it's important we keep clear that it's not a racist policy, this travel ban. It is a policy against certain ideals that may or may not harm our country.
And this is actually perfectly in line with the scriptures and the immigration policies that Israel had enforced upon other nations. And St. Thomas talks about this in the, which question was it? Question 105, Article 3 of the Summa. And when it talks about having strangers come into the land, when somebody's just traveling through, you keep an eye on them, but you treat them very well. You welcome in your midst. You make sure that they're taken care of and everything. But if somebody's trying to come in and become a member of your society, then what's interesting is that depending on the nation that the nation from which that person hails, Israel had different policies regarding immigration.
Right.
And St. Thomas argues that this makes a lot of sense because, like exactly what you're something that you're talking about, is that the values and the history of the nation of that person's nation of origin are such that they represent potentially a great danger, especially without being able to vet that person individually. You should just generally recognize that those who come from this culture tend to be hostile towards our way of life, and especially if they're given citizenship, the status of citizenship within the first generation. St. Thomas says that the risk that you're taking there is that they might not have the common good of this community already deeply into their heart. And so it was very often the case that for friendly nations such as Egypt, people who would come from that area of the world would have to wait until the second generation or even the third generation of their family before they could receive Israeli citizenship. In some places, like the Amalekites, for instance, people who came from the Amalekites, for instance, if somebody wanted to immigrate from that nation to Israel, they weren't even allowed. It wasn't even a question. No way in the world they're coming here because they're sworn enemies. We've been at war with them forever. They're probably a spy, which I think makes a lot of sense for them too, especially at that time when you didn't have the kind of ability to track people's actions. But regardless, there isn't at all anything that resembles an open border and optimistic understanding of immigration. It's very, very, I think, a modern way of looking at it. He doesn't offer any prescriptions saying that a nation needs to be like Israel, saying it's like 2 or 3 generations before they can become citizens. But at the very least, he's giving the general principle that the nation who is receiving the immigrants has to keep in mind the common good first and foremost of the nation that they have already, or of the peoples that they've already been entrusted with to care for.
Mm-hmm.
Amalek, that's what it is. And so it drives me nuts a little bit when people talk about the immigration policy from the Catholic point of view as if we're just supposed to let everybody. And they base it off of words like, Jesus says, if somebody asks you your coat, give him your shirt as well. Or if he asks you to carry his military equipment for 1 mile, carry for 2. Go above and beyond. And there are a lot of people who will fall onto the kind of social justice Catholic side of things, who are advocating for a much looser immigration policy than what's currently being implemented or advocated for by the current administration.
Well, another thing as we get into immigration policy and everything too, and what you were saying with Egypt and Israel and the second or third generation and everything, we also need to understand in our country that the Constitution affords rights to citizens, not travelers per se, not immigrants, not sojourners, but the Constitution is specifically for the citizenry of this republic. Mm-hmm. And so, for say an undocumented person coming into our country, they don't actually have a right, strictly speaking, to claim constitutional right.
Sure.
Now, there are some rulings that our court system have given in order to allow certain constitutional norms to apply also to those undocumented people coming into the country, but strictly speaking, the Constitution is for the citizens, not the non-citizens. And so, we need to keep that in mind too, that we do allow for immigration. We have a certain manner by which somebody can come into this country legally, obtain citizen status, and then obtain all of the rights enumerated in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and all of the greatness that has come over the last 250 years. We do have that system in place, and admittedly, it is not an easy system to navigate. It does take a lot of time, and it can take a lot of money. And so it's not easy, and that particular system does need some reform in order to better vet people, but also to make immigration a bit easier. But to just simply walk across the border or sneak across the border or whatever it is, that is not the proper way to enter our country legally and become a citizen. And so we need to understand the distinction of terms here that, I see these signs that say, like, no human is illegal. Well, duh, except the unborn in our country who don't have any rights at all. You could argue that they're illegal because of unjust laws, but they themselves still are not legal. It's funny, though, they don't apply the same argument to humans in the womb. But where was I going? Oh, I see the signs that say, like, no human is illegal. Well, duh, no human is illegal. But there are laws that govern human behavior. Mm-hmm. So actions are illegal, and people who come across the border that are not seeking asylum, which there's an official manner by which they can seek asylum, or are not seeking citizenship, but are simply crossing the border illegally, they are committing an illegal act. The person is not illegal, but the action is.
Well, I think that's, again, I talk about this all the time. The left, I'll just call it out, is excellent at creating slogans and chants and reframing words and terms in such a way that makes it so that their position seems as if it's on the moral high ground in every case. Saying that no person is illegal. Yeah, we agree with that. No person is illegal. And anybody who says that they disagree with that is automatically going to be labeled a monster, a bigot, a fascist, a Nazi, whatever ad hominem they want to throw it the way of somebody who advocates actually following the law. Right. And this is a big part of the strategy too. Is it's not so much trying to win the battle in terms of the intellectual side of things. Where you are, or what's the actual policy that's going to be good for this nation and good for the people who are coming over here, but rather what makes it so that we can kind of feel our way through these things, or garner more passion and emotional voters to get them out to the polls during election time to keep us in power, and that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing from these groups, especially in the last few years. It's been incredible. People shouting and acting emotionally. There was an article I read not too long ago about on this issue of immigration, and the author was arguing that yes, in the outward appearance, if you look at it from an objective, cold point of view, the screeching, the shouting down of people, the kicking people out, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which those people that restaurant had the right to do, kicking them out and acting this way. It seems all ridiculous and terribly immature. But then they said this, and I love this. What conservatives don't understand is how deeply we feel about Donald Trump. As if their deep feelings justified their irrational behavior. Right. Rather than saying that we need to pause and reflect and ask if our feelings are proportionate to the injustice that is actually being perpetrated, or if there even is one. They don't have this self-assessment to ask themselves whether their feelings are justified, and especially if their actions are justified, but rather take them at the face value. And so you see that again, that same kind of sloganeering where they have no person is illegal. It makes you feel as if you're on the moral high ground. It's easy to remember. You're a Nazi, and so you're going to be subject to social isolation or shaming. Right. And I think is one of the reasons for myself, I voted for Donald Trump in the last election.
You monster! You're a xenophobe and a sexist and a homophobe and a transphobe and a phobophobe and a something else phobe and a studiphobe.
I'm a studiphobe. Yeah, I am deathly afraid of myself. I really am.
Well, you should be if you voted for Trump.
True.
And I can say ridiculous things because I feel it so deeply.
Jake, I feel deeply about you too. Thank you. Deeply. But I was afraid to say anything about it on Facebook or to my youth ministry students. I mean, I can't really do that.
Right. Because you actually have ethical standards.
Yeah. I operate by. I don't try to use my influence of power my position of power to abuse power. What was great? What was great?
You have power by what power is not. It's a negative power. Or something.
Right, and so my influence is such that whatever I say, people are going to want to do the opposite because they have such low regard for me.
I mean, that is actually kind of true.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Actually, though, that's how it is. But in any case, I remember the night that Donald Trump was elected, and I hadn't planned it this way because I don't think that far ahead. I just kind of make my calendar year, my youth ministry year.
Yeah.
I had made that the night after the election, the night to talk about church and politics. And And there
That
were.
seems more providential than anything.
I know, right? And it was great because my big thing was knowing that we do have an obligation to be citizens, as Catholics, and be good citizens for the sake of evangelization, but that one of the idols that we fall into, I think this is one of my top 3 idols, is that we tend to think of our favorite political candidate as our savior.
Mm-hmm.
Going to bring us paradise on earth, which is asking the impossible of them.
Well, that's a very Marxist, communist viewpoint of a leader.
Well, yeah, most people that came to class and talked about politics were more or less Marxists, or the very least. I mean, I just remember there were these 2 girls who I know they had gone out advocating for Bernie Sanders in the primaries in the election. They were Hillary Clinton supporters and had done stuff for her, and they came back. They were just so long-faced. They were so confident that Trump was just going to get absolutely trounced in the election, and turns out he won by a rather wide margin. It wasn't the landslide that he says it was, but
right.
It's just really funny watching the Crow the next day and having to recognize how much hope they had put into Hillary Clinton, how much faith they had put into her to defeat probably the least qualified candidate ever.
No, I would say Hillary has been the least qualified candidate ever.
Well,
she's held powerful positions, but her ability to do what is moral and just makes her, or her inability makes her one of the least qualified candidates ever.
Jacob, are you there? It seems my fellow listeners that Jacob has.
I'm here.
Suddenly disappeared.
Wait.
In an apparent suicide, with 2 gunshots to the back of his head.
Yeah, and all the other ridiculous stories floating around the Clintons. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I know that's a conspiracy theory, but sometimes, honestly. Jake awkwardly laughs.
Yeah.
No, just fine. We put way too much trust in our political candidates, though.
I agree.
And I also think that it's a mark of the socialist movement that we also put faith in the government to take care of our immigrants, take care of the sick and the poor, and trying to set up a governmental system that takes these people in as.
So here's a really simple way to consider this, and this is something I've taught with politics many times over, is that justice is to give somebody what is due to them. Mm-hmm. Charity is to go beyond what is due. So if I owe you $5 and I give you $5, I fulfill justice. But if I give you $10, that's charity. I cannot give charity unless I first fulfill justice. So charity is impossible without justice. Justice is possible without charity. Justice precedes charity. Following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we, as a nation, demand socialism, if we say healthcare for all, education for all, housing for all, if we become like California City and just give, $500 base income to everybody for no work at all, if we do this and it's all provided for the government, then our taxes, or what we owe to the government in justice, becomes 100% or 90% or 80% or something ridiculously high, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing left for us to do is to fulfill justice. And so socialism necessarily eliminates charity from society because we have nothing left to work with in terms of charity. We can't go beyond justice if the government is demanding everything. And that's one of the great dangers of socialism. It's one of the great dangers of all of this. And so to take care of immigrants, yes, we should have some kind of social programming to aid immigrants in this nation to get assimilated. But that same programming should not last indefinitely. There needs to be the pockets of goodwill people and organizations that are there to do this work. And and we really need to get back to the immigration border stuff specifically, and with splitting up families and what's been going on there. But you're right in terms of we can't simply rely on the government to do everything, because if we do, charity is eliminated. That's the ultimate effect. Now, in terms of the border and what has been happening at the border, it's really important to understand that this idea of separation of children from parents at the border, there's two important things to consider. One, the initial policy was put in place in 1997. This was during Bill Clinton. And so Clinton, as well as Bush Jr., as well as Obama, all to varying degrees enforced this policy, but it's only an issue when Trump does it. The other thing to consider is the separation is the consequence of an earlier action. For instance, Studi, if you finally got busted committing a felony, would Michael go to prison with you?
Well, he's my primary accomplice, but I would never rat him out.
That's fair. So there's a natural consequence to breaking the law. Now, whether or not we think the immigration system is just or needs reform or whatever, that's another conversation. But as it stands right now, crossing the border illegally is illegal. Mm-hmm. And the natural consequence is that the parent who took their minor child and committed an illegal act has to answer for that illegal act. But the government is not going to send the child into a holding cell with the parent in a general population. And so what happens with the children is they go to a child's holding cell. It's set up kind of like a daycare. They're not in cages. And the pictures that you've seen floating around of children in cages was actually taken in, I think it was 2014. Yep. Regardless of the year, it happened under Barack Obama. And this is not, I'm not buttering this up to make it seem like it's great for the kids. It's a terrible situation. But they're also going on field trips to zoos. They're going on other various field trips. They have playtime. They're fed well, and I read something like the government is spending, I want to say it's like $80,000 per child per year.
Oh my gosh.
So like it's not like the government is giving them a hamster sippy bottle and sticking it on the side of their cage, and then you get an exercise wheel in your room. The government is actually spending more per child on these immigrant children, or the people who are seeking to immigrate, than the government is spending on its own citizenry for children in the welfare system. So we need to have perspective and not have the knee-jerk reaction of, this is just the worst policy, how could Trump do this? The policy started years ago under a president, 3 presidents before Trump, and it was enforced by Republicans and Democrats alike. Trump actually increased funding, whether it was Trump himself or one of his agencies, increased how much funding was given ultimately to a child per year. These children are not in this facility for all year, but if they're in there a week, they take that, how much was spent that week, and they extend it out to 52 weeks to see how much is being spent per year. And so the funding is being increased for the children, and the parents and the child are eventually reunited. But the parents have to take responsibility for this. And I watched an interview with an ICE agent at the border, Border Patrol, not ICE, a Border Patrol agent who said that he comes across kids all the time that are on the verge of death from heat stroke because their parents just send them through the desert alone with their parents' phone number written on their shirt. And so these border agents give their kids their last bottle of water. They give them a toy out of their car. They take care of them. And he's seen children die from this. Where are the parents? Some of these parents are sending little girls, they're 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old girls through the desert alone with birth control pills because of the understanding that it's possible they'll be raped. I mean, this is an awful situation, and we as a country have to deal with it because they're coming to this country. But just saying, we have no rules, come on in, is not going to solve it. And to say, if a parent shows up with a child, we're just going to give them automatic access because that's what the Democrats are pushing for, all that's going to do is increase child abduction south of the border. Because then somebody's just going to grab a child and say, it's my child, and I'm coming across the border.
Right, and that's actually one of the other issues about separating the parents and the children, because it could be the case that they're doing exactly that, and that they're engaged in child trafficking, which is something that was an issue late last week. There was in Oakland, California, an ICE raid, and so the Immigration Customs Enforcement raid, and they ended up breaking up a child sex trafficking ring in a neighborhood in Oakland. And what was sad about it?
Oh, I read this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the neighbors were crying about this because they knew that these are immigrants, and then the immigrant children there. And neighbors are crying about it, and they
were illegal.
Testing it.
They were illegal immigrants. They're undocumented.
Yes.
It's really important to keep the distinction.
You're right. Illegal immigrants, and they were engaging in child sex trafficking. Absolutely horrible, but they didn't consider that there's the possibility this agency is actually performing a real justice, that they're doing something that's good for these children, and I think in some ways part of the separation is making sure that those kids are safe, that they're taken care of. Like you're saying, they're very often absolutely emaciated or dying of heat stroke or dehydration, and then these centers are saving their lives or giving them ample food and appropriate playtime for the first time in a while.
Also, I don't know if you covered this particular point, but the people were protesting ICE as they came in. ICE informed the people of why they were there, and part of that information was that they were breaking up a child sex trafficking ring, and they continued to protest.
Yep.
Even after finding out the exact reason, which is an awful reason, they continued to protest.
It just makes you wonder.
Yeah. So I mean, the Catholic response to this, and I've been a little confused by some of the bishops' responses, but ultimately the Catholic response does need to be one of compassion, because there are legitimately people coming to our border for asylum purposes. But we also, as Catholics, and really as humans in general, need to have a discerning spirit about what we are doing. We can't just have a wholesale open border that's not secure, it's not safe, it's not realistic. We can't completely shut off our border and lack compassion for the people coming across. And we need to have compassion on the fact that families are coming and they're having hardships, but that doesn't mean that there's a one-size-fits-all solution to all of it. Mm-hmm. And that's actually one of the great things about the fact that we don't just have, say, a computerized border or an electronic border that just sorts people out of a program. We have human persons. We do have very good agents at the border who do treat people with compassion and respect. And, of course, there's always the ones who don't. But at the end of the day, the human factor in encountering the person is really important. And I think the wise thing to do would be to hear from border agents what they are experiencing instead of listening to what the politicians are saying about the situation, because the politicians don't really care. They're not at the border. They don't really know what's happening, but the border agents are. They see the people, for better and for worse, coming across the border. They're the ones rescuing little children and shooting against drug dealers. You know, we should really open our ears as Catholics to the authentic experience at the border from those trying to enter, but also, and maybe just as, if not more importantly, the border agents themselves who are tasked with this very difficult task.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can't imagine how difficult it must be. I mean, you said that border agents have seen children die in those
from
situations.
Heat stroke.
From heat stroke. And then
Yep.
imagining sending my oldest daughter is going to turn 6 pretty soon here, sending her across the border, in 2 years from now to go to traverse a terrible desert by herself. I can't imagine how you could do that. I mean, in one way, perhaps these people are simply just that desperate for some sort of change in their life that they're willing to risk their children to do so. But at the same time, I think that part of the issue for us, is that because we have things like anchor babies and other means by which parents can receive citizenship because of their children, we offer an incentive for parents to attempt those sort of actions, to attempt those sort of ways of finding loopholes in the immigration system to make it faster and make it easier for them to become a citizen of the United States and have all the rights that are afforded therein. And that, to me, is a sign that we really ought to consider what it is that we can change about immigration policies that will deter those sorts of behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on the flip side of this, talking about the court system, because that's going to come into play here, is Trump's new nominee for the Supreme Court after the retirement of Justice Kennedy is Brett Kavanaugh. It's a really good thing that Kennedy resigned, retired. He's written some dubious decisions over the years. And Kavanaugh, I'm not super excited about. I think he's a safe pick. I think he'll be fairly easily confirmed. I don't think he'll be denied. And, my preference would have been Amy Coney Barrett. But since she's only had 1 year of experience on the judicial bench, and she's definitely to the right politically of Kavanaugh, I think that she could have been a grave risk for Trump losing a nomination in an election year. And I think if that happened, I think this is probably part of the motivation behind picking a safer choice like Kavanaugh, even if he's not too far to the right. He's a little bit more centrist in some ways. I think going with the safer choice, part of the motivation is that if Trump's nominee lost in the Senate, that could mean losing Senate seats this fall. So I think having a safe win, Trump and his cabinet is hoping that we'll pick up some Senate seats this fall. And then when Ruth Bader Ginsburg is gone, I mean, she's falling asleep during court hearings. She should probably think about retiring. But hopefully we have a stronger Senate to then nominate somebody like Amy Coney Barrett. That's my thinking behind it.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. To have somebody like her in there. Yeah. And I'd be very interested hearing her, the proceedings for her to be confirmed as a Supreme Court nominee or a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
Considering what happened last time.
Well,
she had to
to remind listeners.
Yeah. Was it
Dianne Feinstein was grilling her in her Senate approval hearing, and he said the dogma lives loudly in you.
Oh my gosh. If that's not a religious rubric or a religious test for a position in government, I don't know what is. And the thing is, people are harping on her for being a part of the people of praise, which, to be honest, like most things that were started in the 80s by Catholics, it's got some weird stuff. They're innocuous. I mean, it's a good group. It's a fine group. It fits within the church's overall scope of apostolates. It's actually ecumenical. They only require water baptism and profession of the Nicene Creed. So most Christians fall into this. But they use weird stuff like the female lead used to be called the handmaiden and men used to be called head, and And then one thing I just thought was plain stupid was that people were criticizing them for saying that you go to the leadership to receive advice regarding relationships and marriage. And I'm just thinking, would you do that with any religious organization if you have a good relationship with your pastor?
Right.
Wouldn't you talk to him about that? I mean, it's insane to make that a criticism. Or you do that within your own family if you're being prudent about your decisions in life.
So I'm just reading, and I just came across a poll that actually I think confirms my other suspicion of why Trump picked Kavanaugh, and that's that if he picks somebody more to the middle, and the Democrats are hell-bent on rejecting this nomination, it shows how extreme the left has become, that they won't even approve somebody who is more in the middle than the other candidates. And a poll just came out that the majority of voters in Senate battleground states want Trump's nominee to be confirmed. And so this just further shows that if the Democrats reject this person, Brett Kavanaugh, then the Republicans will likely pick up seats this fall. If they approve this nomination, then it's a win for Trump anyway, and they'll probably pick up seats this fall. So I think it's a brilliant move rather than choosing somebody farther to the right, such as Amy Coney Barrett, which would not galvanize center-leaning voters. They would just think Trump is way off right-hand deep end. But if you pick somebody a little bit more moderate and the Democrats reject it, it's going to push people in the center to the right. I think it's actually pretty brilliant strategy, and the polls are showing it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm hoping it pans out really well, that we can maintain, that the conservative movement maintains a strong position within the legislative branch.
Wow.
Because even though we should be passing laws through the process that the founders originally intended, and that the but now the Supreme Court's been has been used in such a way that it's more or less kind of become the de facto leadership, or in terms of like what constitutes something that's in accordance with the United States tradition of governance and the Constitution, and providing a moral guidance for our nation. I think having all three branches of government in the hands of people who are of an opposite ideology is ultimately going to be a good way for the damage that's been done by leftists and secularists over the last 50 years to be undone. Starting with reforming, and
legal and moral,
reforming the schools, making marriage a higher priority, increasing the life and respect those aspects of our ethical system. I mean, I remember younger, one of the main points, and this is just the way kids think, was that, well, abortion is legal, therefore it's moral.
Yeah.
And
legal and moral are two different things.
Yeah, but when you're younger and you hear that kind of thing, you can't make those kind of distinctions, and so you just accept it.
Right.
I think there's a Jesuit saying, or at least according to Boondock Saints, there's a Jesuit saying, which is, if you get them young, the possibilities are endless, and there's truth to that.
Yeah.
It's, I think, extremely important for us to.
So, go ahead and finish. I have two things I need to get to real quick before we wrap up.
Oh, I think it's just important for us to hope to work towards having an effective that guide our culture.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So, two real quick things. One on the immigration thing is the new president of Mexico, who is super liberal, is now creating a border force to stop illegal immigrants from Central America. So he is creating essentially a southern border wall, not of material but of soldiers. But he also criticizes us for having a southern border wall. So interesting thing there. Maybe we can pick that up next week. Really funny. The one thing I just wanted to mention about Brett Kavanaugh is that he's been endorsed by a number of pro-life organizations. which is a good sign. He was on Kenneth Starr's legal team, who sought the impeachment of President Clinton. So he's definitely got background in high-level politics and legalese. But he also ruled curiously in Obamacare stuff while he was in the D.C. Court of Appeals. And he changed the letter of the law from the individual mandate fee to individual mandate tax. And that's what gave ammunition to the Supreme Court later to uphold Obamacare, the individual mandate. So there's some pluses and minuses to Brett Kavanaugh. Maybe we can pick it up more next week because this is going to be a long drawn-out process at the legislature. So with that, we are all out of time. Studi, it's been a pleasure this week, and we'll talk some more next week.
God bless Jacob, and God bless you listeners.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.